everybody, and welcome to the Hot Take with Chrissy. We're going to do a special today. We're going to be talking about a local football coach that just got fired on Friday from FPC High School. And we're still waiting at this moment for additional information to come in as to why he was let go. But we wanted to go over a couple things now, just to talk about the article that came out on Friday and a couple of the comments that we've received. And so with that, I'm going to start with the News Journal article that came out on Friday. And it says here, Flagler Palm Coast has parted ways with Daniel Fish, the second-year head coach. The News Journal says this is wrote by Chris Boyle. This came out Friday. Fish says he was called into a meeting with the athletic director Scott, the assistant principal Nick Shell, excuse me, during the final period of school on Friday, where he was told by FPC that they were moving in a different direction. The team held its end-of-the-year banquet on Thursday night. It came as a complete surprise to me. I really didn't have any words, Fish said. There was no explanation given to as why. Obviously, I didn't expect them to go in a different direction on and off the field. I feel like I went above and beyond in turning the program around, and I feel that we overachieved one in a short year. When I took over, it was a bit of a mess with all the kids transferring in and out with GPA's situations. My heart is heavy for the kids and the community. And it goes on to talk about the athletic director. He actually just released a response after this article was written saying the school leadership is scheduled to meet Fish on Tuesday, January 21st. At this time, he wasn't at liberty to discuss any of the decisions. Now, Alan, I'm going to ask you this question real quick. Do you know anything about schools and school boards and how they work?
I know quite a bit about school boards and so forth and how they work. I don't know much about how the athletic department works. My son went to a different school, so I'm not really familiar with FPC nor the coach Fish, but I do know the way the other things work.
So when a coach or a teacher is let go, do you think they have to have significant evidence, or are they just going to fire somebody because somebody got into a fight or somebody said something that, or do you think there's actual valid proof?
Well, I can tell you that my son was on a football team, and we were just talking about this today. And one of his coaches, not the head coach, but one of his coaches made some derogatory remarks, and the athletic department said, hey, knock it off. And that was the end of that. So it had to be something bigger than just, calling a kid a name or something like that.
Yeah. So what's interesting about this is since I've been talking about the story the last few days, I actually had somebody reach out to me who actually works in the school. And because of them feeling that they might get retaliation, they didn't want me to mention their name.
Sure.
But this was really interesting, and I'm going to throw this out there. It says when the coaching search first happened, we were talking about when Paxia left and they were looking for somebody to fill his spot at FPC. It was recommended not to go with Fish, but the principal the principal did. And after it was learned, there was a relationship that was further between the principal and the coach. And he says here, allegedly, it was quoted that basically he was adopted into their family, that they were really close friends. And so far they were familiar. Oh, how did he put this? Let's see. So far they were more familiar than anybody had ever known, even though Coach Fish, a lot of people thought were not qualified for the position, and everybody knew what was going to happen. They work at this school. They knew about this stuff. And then I asked him too. I said, well, what do you think about Tuesday's closed door meeting? Like when you get let go, when he was let go on Friday, why do you think somebody wouldn't have told them why he was fired? Like, you're fired because here you go and here's your exit papers. He says usually there's a formality or whatever to go with this. When I called the school board to talk to them, usually there's a formality, but because they think that Fish went to the newspaper and said, I was fired and I don't know why, that now they may be having this meeting to maybe having to let him know they're going to air out the laundry, per se.
Well, I mean, if in my mind I actually knew reasons, and I'm not saying he does, but in my mind, if I actually knew reasons for why I was being fired, or I had a good idea of reasons why I'd be fired, and they may not be, or they would be derogatory towards me, I probably would keep my mouth shut and stay in the background.
Well, and that's funny you say that because when I read the article, I'm actually looking for the post now that I'm looking for. He actually stated, Coach Fish, that he had no idea why he was getting fired. But then he put in the article, they are coming after me. That they were coming after me. He knows something. He knew.
Who's they?
That's exactly what I was mean. He put that in the article. They. So you have to know, first of all, that's more than one person. And honestly, after all of these messages and comments and text messages, emails, different things that I've received, there's a lot more than just two people we're talking about here. And I'm trying to find, yeah, it's right here. It says, when I took over, or this, it came as a complete surprise to me but I knew that they were coming after me. That is just insane to me.
Well, if he knew,
why would you say that to the
they,
paper then?
well, I wouldn't, but if he knew that some they were coming after him, then he knew the reason why some they were coming after him. You know, I think it's my personal opinion, but I don't believe that this was as big a shock as it's being portrayed as.
No, and I'm just going to say, so I'm going to clear the air here. It was my personal experience. My son had played for the first year for Coach Fish, and my son was called a 6-quarter player where they play JV, and then you play varsity as needed, and they kind of like groom you, obviously, for varsity. You're not quite ready yet, but they'll play you in the games. And I had absolutely no problem with that. I liked my kid playing JV. I didn't want him to play varsity at that time. I didn't feel he was ready for it. Something happened in a classroom setting between Coach Fish and my son. And I had now taken my son out and put him homeschool because of it. My son played football at a different school this year for fall, but he got put back into FPC now. We're still online students, but for weightlifting because he loves a weightlifting coach there. But my experience is this. If you make a complaint, and I've gotten several comments and we'll go into those, and you go against the grain, there is a group of women, and you can attest to this.
No,
we've
had phone calls. Yes,
they call the studio. They send in emails. They're just like, there's this huge smear campaign of like several women. And the funniest part is these are the women that are moms on the football team. They're not even the dads or anybody else is saying. It's just like this group of women, and you know who they are. And there's been several comments of people that don't want to go against this because of retaliation and bullying. That seems to be a theme if your kid didn't see or didn't get along with some of the players or the coaching staff, that they were retaliated against. There was a comment that I posted on my Facebook page about how he tried to they're talking about Coach Fish, he tried to turn the whole team against my son. There were several of those comments. There were several of those people that went to the school board about stuff like this. We have affidavits that were signed by statements that went to a private investigator. So we're waiting for the lawyer to be able to discuss names and different things like that and release this. But there's been several parents that have gone to the school board, that have gone to the school, and it makes me wonder how much shit was shoved under the rug for year and a half that this has been going on. For now, all of a sudden, something must have been really big for.
Something must have blown up. But he was a teacher as well.
Yeah, he was a teacher, and something
what did
happened.
He teach?
He taught weightlifting. So if you're a football, we were told when we signed up for football a few years ago, you have to take the weightlifting class. So my son took it with the previous coach, and then he had to take it with this coach. We never had any problem. We didn't have any problem during the season. Nothing. And something transpired in a classroom setting last February that led to me taking my son out. It wasn't because he didn't get playing time at all. He got a lot of playing time on JV. And then, like I said, he was a 6-quarter player on varsity. So I didn't, a lot of people complain because their kids don't get playing time. That wasn't why I took my son out of FPC, the actual school. So we're clearing the airway there. I guess if it needs to be cleared, but these moms are still going nuts. They're still talking about this. Apparently, because we're allowed to talk about this on the radio, they're losing their mind. And a lot of people, if you go back on and look at some of these comments that are on the News Journal, mine, there's a poll going on right now. Should he stay? Should he go? Or is it FPC's fault? And starting to look through the administration, there might be some crooked stuff going on too, because other sports have had similar issues where they're claiming they went to administration, the athletic director and the principal, and nothing's been done. It was somebody about cheerleading, girls cheerleading there, baseball, and a few other sports.
Well, I can tell you from, well, it's not personal experience because it didn't happen to me, but in one of the classes that my son was in, one of the teachers, who also taught a sport, not a sport that my son played, but a sport, got upset during a class, took his shoe off, and threw his shoe at a student, and it hit the student, and narrowly missed my son, but it hit the student, and I got a little ticked off about it when I found out about it, and I went to the principal of that school, and nothing happened. So if they are liking the coach, or if at that time,
Well, now we know that obviously from the inside source that the principal obviously had more of a relationship with that coach than people knew about.
yeah.
Well,
Now,
from what the inside source says.
so is the principal male or female?
Male, which is so weird now because the students over the weekend, I've been reading all of their Instagrams and posts, they're blaming the principal for firing him because of wanting another program to be more successful. I mean, there's so many ridiculous rumors and stuff.
How does getting rid of him make
I don't know,
another
because
program
regardless of who they put in, football is always going to be your highest generating revenue sport in the school.
Yeah,
I was on the booster
always
club
has
there.
been.
I know, and putting that to wrestling or weightlifting or something like that, the amount of money that brings in from football is completely, it's not even on the table.
Well, up north where I'm from, Maine, we had hockey teams. At that time, most every high school had a hockey team and a football team. And, we're up north. Hockey is a big thing in New England, all that. Football still outshined, as far as revenue generation, what the hockey team would do.
Yeah. Well, I did talk to somebody over the weekend who is actually retired from a school board, and they gave me some very insightful information on how crooked some stuff could be. And sometimes when things like this happen, it came from the higher up, so it had to go through a different chain. And we've been gathering information from the FHSAA, the state of Florida, Tallahassee.
What's FH?
So that's a football association.
Gotta say,
who you have to go. They're all on the up and up, and that's where we got media releases a few months ago to actually try to find out all of these complaints that came in on this coach, where they were generated from, what they were complaints about. There's several complaints as far as recruiting to not having players drink water to, I mean, there was several. And this transpired over the last year of different things. And it's funny because they like to blame one person, but from what I've seen, I'd like to release the names. That's why I'm waiting for the attorney to call back, because it wasn't just one person. It's actually people that are on the team, some of those parents. So they need to be held accountable for that, don't you think? I mean, you're going to go blame one person. And the other thing is they're so quick to say, because my son didn't get playing time, it was that person. Bull. I don't believe that at all. My son had something happen that happened in a classroom setting, had nothing to do with football. Somebody else could have had the same experience, and that's not for somebody to judge. It really isn't. And I'm going to go to this one comment here. It was on the Flagler Weekly page. It says, it was due to be cussing at kids on the sideline for a mistake, all up in their faces, grabbing them by their jerseys. It was bad. He couldn't even control his anger. I went to a few games at home and in Jacksonville. I was like, this coach be doing that to my kid, I'd be tucking him under the field house. And then the top contributor underneath that put, I told someone this also at the school. I saw some things that were very questionable. All it takes for one parent to get the ball rolling. And I'm going to say this about that comment. Who did she tell? Who did she tell at the school that she saw stuff that was questionable? Yeah. Did she tell the same people that everybody else told the things to that I've talked to and gotten statements from? Because how did that get missed? If this guy is grabbing kids by their jerseys and yelling them on the field, I'm all for discipline. For football, that's needed in that sport. If a coach wants to yell at my son, that's fine. Grabbing them or questionable things, I'd like to know what that meant by that comment. Well,
let me jump back in prehistory. Roughly between 42 and 45 years ago, I coached hockey up north.
I bet that's just as good as football.
Well, it wasn't a high school team. It was a younger team, but in fact, they were what we called mites, which were I think like 5-year-old to 7-year-old or something along it. Really young kids who had basically just learned to skate or were learning to skate.
Aw.
And so it wasn't about winning the games at that age. I mean, winning a game was good, but it was more about teaching the kids the sport, teaching them how to skate, teaching them, how to work as a team, things like that. So when we would have games, about, we got 5 and 6 year olds out on the ice, and we're having games, and the parents, I'm putting this. Typically, you have 3 lines of players, and you put them out. At that level, there's no line better than another line. It's just 3 lines of kids, and you put them out to play. Well, the parents didn't think that. The parents thought that there were that first line was, the top players, second line, which normally would be high school and up, first line, second line, third line, but these were all the same. And I would just put them out there so kids could have and we may not have had the best team. So sometimes we were losing, and I would put the third line out. Well, in parents' mind, third line is the worst line, even though in this instance they were all the same line. And I would get amazing amounts of grief from parents who were mouthy. But never did I get a complaint about screaming at a kid or touching a kid or any kind of, inappropriate somehow action. They were just upset that I wasn't trying to win a game and beat everybody for those ages.
I really think it's the atmosphere, because I've been in both at FPC and another school for football. We didn't have that issue at the other school. My son started, and it doesn't even matter if he played or not, but he played varsity both sides of the ball pretty much the entire year. And even if he sat the bench, it was a different type of vibe. There wasn't, with a lot of these comments I'm starting to get, like you see, that bullying group. That's the first thing, and it's definitely happening. And even like this, I'm going to read this real quick by another parent. She posted this on Facebook. Being a good coach is about, and I'm not going to say the F word, but more than just winning games. I stayed silent throughout preseason, my son's senior year, but I will say this, that man, Coach Fish, almost crushed my son's love for football during his senior year. My child, who played this game with passion and drive, was ready to give up and start over and completely start over this season. My son, who coached younger players in Pop Warner for years, 3 seasons to be exact. My son was a 6-quarter player his freshman year. Anyone who knows him would have been stunned and appalled to know that we were still dealing with this with Coach Fish. And Coach Fish had him doubting himself. I'm going to stop right there, because it says calling him garbage. He called when he did that to my son in class, and when he did some of the things he did, my son, it crushed him to where he didn't want to play football anymore. And he was about, F this, I'm just going to do weightlifting. I said, absolutely not. Just because people treat you like shit, you're going to take the high road. You're going to hang in there. We're going to figure out something.
Right.
And that's what parents do. And I'm going to say this too, not all parents' experiences are the same with the same coach or person or anybody in life. You could go to Walmart and you could go talk to the doorman and have a totally different experience than me if I walk in 10 minutes later. And the thing with that bullying group there is they're so quick to judge, and they're always right and you're always wrong. And God forbid you go against them, you're going to have hell to pay, just like my family's been threatened. You've gotten calls, you've gotten emails, everyone in the studio has. How many months has this been going on now? 3?
At least.
And I don't even go to football there anymore. We left in May. This is this group though, but that's that bullying mentality that's going on there. But she goes to say here, anyone who knows him would have been stunned and appalled. Fish had him doubting himself. That's a good coach to y'all, right? That winning record means nothing. It means not a goddamn thing. If you only gave a shit about half the players, means not a damn thing if you spout bullshit and being there for these young men. But if I actually had to read out and actually talk to these people, get the read on these boys and what's going on. This is my opinion. Glad we're done. Y'all are better off without him. Don't worry about it. And this is posted publicly so all the little minions can go out there and say whatever they want. Hence, AKA that group of women. It's not the men on this team or the dads. It's this group of women. So, but that's one of several that talk about this bullying mentality. And like I said, when I went to a different school, we didn't have this experience with football. I don't know. Is that normal?
Yeah. Well, I have to say that a football coach versus a hockey coach, the football coach is a lot stronger, mouthier, whatever.
I know you gotta really be careful with what you're saying.
but to crush a kid's self-esteem.
My son went through the same thing.
Yeah, you can't do that. And no
it's
matter
multiple
what quality.
kids. And it's multiple kids. And
kids.
it's not just because they're sitting the bench. I know this kid personally who was just in that. He actually has a college offer. And that's the other thing we're talking about. You know how like the media glorifies these guys, like AKA Biden, like he's wonderful, right? Let's go back to pen and paper and actual facts. And this came up, this right here. The team did well because of Coach Metlock, which he's the OC, and that poor man didn't get enough credit for it, which I agree. Coach Metlock is a great coach. He's also the one that brought in Hayden and a few other transfers. I don't know if that's true or not, but that was what they said in this comment. A few of the other players that he helped this year, but the schedule was nowhere near the strength level like it was last year with Coach Paxia, and neither one of these coaches, talking about Fish or Metlock, were able to get any college scholarships for those boys. Everything had come for the year prior to Pax that he had in motion. Mm-hmm. So being an advocate for your football players is huge, and wanting to get them college offers, you're their advocate. You're the one who's supposed to go out there and help them. And they're complaining about this along with several other kids that they've had to do that. But even though he went 9-1, I'm going to have coaches come on here actually and talk about this, the strength of schedule, to break it down to see if he played crappier teams and just ran up the score to make them look better. And did he actually bring in any offers with him? No one's really talked about that.
Right.
So these are just a few things that we're going to dig into and look into the next few weeks. And just wanted to come on here and talk to everybody about this briefly. We're going to keep this as an ongoing story, developing story. Tomorrow, we're supposed to find out the actual reason. We're going to have a retired school board member on here to talk about the breakdown, about letting a teacher go, a coach go, what reasons you need to have, what's the process. There's a couple of instances that were swept under the rug. We're talking about a broomstick incident and a couple other things that happened at the beginning of the year that 6 kids got suspended for that nobody's talking about. That was brought up in another article. So we're going to bring in some stuff. It's going to be pretty interesting what unfolds these next few days.
Yeah, this is a great unfolding story. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you though. I heard you may have had some death threats.
Oh yeah, no, I'm having death threats, but that's okay. I mean, this doesn't surprise me. This group, I'm telling you, I've been dealing with this since February. And if you go, I have a thing right here. If you go Coach Fish and Coach Metlock, they had the team turn against my son. Here's another one. I had my kid targeted at practice because of these two. There's so many comments on here. And we have interviewed, I've gotten official statements by private investigators so we can talk about some of this stuff on the air. And yeah, no, I got my son's friends are getting threats. They're getting paperwork. They're getting crap. By the way, I have 100% custody of both my children, so I'm not what they're trying to portray me as. Right. I don't think if you're that bad of a human and you do some of the disgusting things that they're saying, I would have access to both of my children. So again, and they're diverting from the topic. Coach Fish got fired. It has nothing to do with me. It's just because I'm talking about it and they don't want me to.
Right.
They're going to say all this crap. And you've seen, they've called in on the show. They're just a bunch of bullies, a certain group of them. And I could have gone and fired off cease and desists. I could still do that. I've already talked to my attorney. I haven't been doing that. I've actually taken live calls from some of these idiots, and they're not affecting me. With a heart monitor and all, they're not affecting me. Because I know at the end of the day, he's fired. There's actual physical proof something happened. And a lot of these people will be vindicated, I think, when it comes out. I really do. And whether it was administration that knew about stuff and didn't talk about it, or he's the fall goat for something, I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
Well, I think that as things unravel here and we find out more stuff, I don't feel that there'll be a positive outcome for people that are in the bullying group. But you know, like up on the federal level.
You guys know who they are. They call in. Their names are there. You've had to block them. They've even come through Scavy accounts. Like it's ridiculous. But why are you coming after me still? I left that school in May with my child.
Oh, and that's the thing.
He's at homeschool now because of an incident that happened in a classroom. Well, that had nothing to do with football.
That's the thing. If you need a group of people to bully for you, something's not right.
Well, and some of these kids were even getting bullied and they left the school because they didn't want to be under Fish. I actually interviewed some of these parents and kids that when Fish first was announced he was coming, they were transferring out. And he even wrote that there were so many transfers going on. Did you ask the kids why they were transferring? Because I did. I asked their parents. I called your previous school. I talked to some of the students. I talked to their parents. I talked to some people that you coached with. All of this will be coming out. And some of those kids went to go to a school and won a state title. So
it wasn't like they were crap. These were high-end players.
No, these were great players that you treated like shit according to them and their parents, and they won a state title and you went 3-7. So again, where do people get off judging that though? Like, where should another parent bully another parent because they're doing something different or their kid wasn't treated right and they're defending their child? Where the hell do you get off? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
This group of moms, man, I'm telling you, and they know who they are. They know who they are.
Well, I guess they should
I got
put
a
their
bodyguard
helmets
for
on.
free now. I'm fine. I feel so secure now. Well, with that being said, guys, we're wrapping up. This is a developing story. We're going to talk about this tomorrow as soon as we find out what the school actually releases. And we hope you have a great day.
Bye now.